You know, when it comes to American presidents, I feel like Theodore Roosevelt is one of the most liked. Like, I can kind of give you some impressions, like, only limited to where I've been raised here in California, of how Americans think of certain presidents. And at least where, like, I'm from, and, like, a lot of the discourse surrounding Theodore Roosevelt, people like him, like really like him. And usually I very seldomly find people who would say anything bad about the guy, and I'm not gonna pretend that like I'm an expert on everything he did, all his policies and stuff, but there's a lot of like things around him just as a person. People love him and think he's awesome and kind of a G, like a real bad bud. And you know what's one of my favorite stories about him? Like, that he survived an assassination attempt. He got shot, but then he got back up and continued his speech, and basically was like, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I just got shot, but it takes more than that to kill like a bull moose." Like, like that gives you an impression of the kind of dude he was. Like, this guy was tough as nails and just cool. You know what I mean? As a person, obviously I can't speak about all his policies and everything he did and whether it was good for America in the long run or not, because I feel like that's really where you have to look at with a president. But at least as a person, most people really love him and have. I very seldomly find anything bad said about him or his character. But who knows? Maybe we'll find something else out new in this video. So, I'm looking at this video called America's Manliest President, The Life and Times of Theodore Roosevelt, by Jack Rackham. So we're back with Jack Rackham. So if you want to watch the original video without my yapping, the link to this video is down in the description down below. And if you, maybe want to help support my channel, maybe you might like my commentary or my thoughts or whatever, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and maybe consider being a YouTube or Patreon member. It'd really help me out a lot. With that said, now without any further ado, let's get to it. Let us watch America's Manliest President, The Life and Times of Theodore Roosevelt, by Jack Rackham.
Can I give an accurate picture of just how manly this man is? Okay, do you remember those Chuck Norris facts that were popular like 10 years ago?
There are 10 million people in the world of Warcraft because Chuck Norris allows them to live.
The Chuck Norris meme was always so weird to me. I remember when I was like 10 and that stuff was like popular. You know, like Chuck Norris can basically do anything because he's Chuck Norris. So, that was a weird time. Early internet meme and culture was so weird to me. Looking back at it, I'm like, oh, this was kind of weird. But, yeah.
Turns out they were invented for Teddy Roosevelt. Turns out they were invented for Teddy Roosevelt.
Yes, this is the famous utter quote. They've had to take Roosevelt sleeping. If he had been awake, there would have been a fight. Amazing.
This episode is sponsored by the Great Courses Plus. Free stuff at the end of the video. Now, young Teddy was actually a sickly kid with terrible asthma, but by age 7 he was already a hunter and a museum curator. It all started when he got a discarded seal head from the local market and proceeded to spend the next 2 years killing any living thing he could get his hands on and stuffing them in his bedroom. He then grew up to be a gentleman and a scholar, graduating Harvard magna cum laude and becoming a published historian and ornithologist on top of joining the rowing and boxing teams. Now, crippling asthma wasn't good for such an intrepid young man, so he overcame it with sheer force of will. His doctors told him, "Hello, Theodore. Yes, I wanted to inform you that you shouldn't be doing anything that might trigger your asthma. It could have serious adverse effects on your health, potentially leading..."
Gotta stop you right there, Chief. Live fast, die young. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah. A real man's man. Are you kidding me? This dude was a man's man. He's like he's not gonna let something like getting shot or asthma stop him from accomplishing his goals. Again, quite an intelligent man, but also a very active one. He was both the nerd and the athlete, the Chad, at the exact same time. Like, he was both. That's how awesome he was. I feel like this video is kind of be more in the jokey side, but I think it's still funny, so I don't mind.
Where are you right now?
But things weren't all alpine sunshine. Shortly after his daughter was born, his mother died of fever.
Thank God I have you for support, honey. Where's Alice?
And so Roosevelt
Oh,
makes
that
like
sucks.
Batman and vows to fight for justice. He becomes a politician in New York City, sniffing out corruption and running up against party leaders. Until soon he became a party leader, until soon he lost support. So he did the next best thing and became a cowboy. Moved to Dakota and dropped 14 grand on a cattle ranch. Again, he displays his mastery of the art of manliness in a local saloon, when a man with a gun trots in and orders a round for the house, on Teddy. So Teddy socks him in the jaw and knocks him senseless. Teddy Roosevelt brought a fist to a gunfight and won. Satisfied with his time in the frontier, and also because a bad winter killed all his cows, he returned to New York, this time setting out to reform the police force, so that his men were manly.
This man's doing everything. Like, he's doing everything. He's like speedrunning multiple paths of life. You know, an athlete, a scholar, a politician, a cattle ranch farmer, like, this man wants to do everything, doesn't he? Like, I feel like he's like speedrunning life. He's like, well, how much can I do in like one lifetime, you know?
And not using the NYPD as a cushy political job. Speaking of political jobs, Teddy made campaign speeches for McKinley, and now he's Assistant Secretary of the Navy. But Teddy didn't believe in cushy. He took on most of the duties of his boss and started advocating to kick Spain out of Cuba. And the president agreed, but he wanted to kick Spain out diplomatically. And then the Maine blew up. McKinley, to his credit, was still trying to de-escalate the situation, but yeah, that didn't happen.
Roosevelt, I'm afraid we're going to war.
One step ahead of you, Chief. Also, I quit.
What?
Can't waste an opportunity to fight on the front lines. Yeah!
Fight he did, going above and beyond anything he was ordered to. So now he's an ornithologist, a historian, a cowboy, police chief, politician, and a war hero. Just the kind.
Again, he did everything. Like you said, he wants to do everything in life. It's kind of amazing. He's so driven. I wish I had this kind of drive in my own life. Like, dang, I would be unstoppable.
Kind of person party boss Tom Platt needs to nominate for governor of New York. And Teddy cinches the election. Heck, he was on such a roll, maybe he could even be president someday. And then the vice president dies, and Teddy's friends tell him, hey, you should run for VP. Teddy says no, because the VP does nothing. And then he gets a message from McKinley saying,
Just so you know, you're not allowed to be my VP.
but then...
Hear ye, hear ye! Vote Roosevelt for VP at the Republican Convention!
Yes, it turns out the party boss who helped put Teddy in the governor's office now wants him out of office. He and his party boss friends run Roosevelt's entire campaign without him, put him on the ballot against the president's wishes, and he won unanimously. So he and...
That's amazing. That's honestly so awesome. He's just that great. Like, he doesn't even have to try to run for anything. He'll win, even if he doesn't care to. Oh gosh, dude literally is suffering from success. I can't relate, but that's awesome.
McKinley win the election, and now he's vice president. And then McKinley dies. Whoops. And look, his presidency is a video unto itself. He broke up trusts, he made national parks, he made it so that food has to be edible and drugs can't kill you, he helped promote a federal income tax and an 8-hour workday, he passed nearly as many executive orders as the previous 25 presidents combined, and he panned a Panama Plans canal. The man's face is on a mountain next to the guy who won the Civil War and two of the guys who made the country. Let us just...
Yeah, yeah, you're definitely seeing the in-depth look of why he's really loved here. Like I said, I'm not gonna pretend that I was familiar with everything he did, like all his policies, and a lot of what I know about him definitely is, you know, kind of from antidotes, like him being shot and getting back up, and, you know, kind of just being revered as a bastion, as a paragon of manliness and chatness. in the likes of which very few American presidents have ever touched. But, you know, seeing the policies and stuff, yeah, you could see why a lot of people, it's hard to, at least from where I'm around and what the discourse I've heard, it's very hard to find people who just are negative, you know, about the guy. I'm sure there are, it's just I'm only speaking about my corner of America and the areas I inhabit. I'm sure other parts in America, maybe there are more people who might have something negative to say, maybe, but again, I haven't heard or seen any.
Take a moment and acknowledge his legacy. And now let's move on to the fun stuff. It's 1908, and Teddy chooses not to run for a third term. Instead, he installs his friend Taft as basically a younger version of himself, and runs off to Africa where he kills 11,000 animals and brings their bodies to the Smithsonian. When he gets back, it turns out Taft isn't Teddy Roosevelt 2.0, so Teddy starts rethinking that third term. But Republicans aren't about to give up their incumbent president for someone who was only supposed to be VP. So Teddy makes his own party. It was during his third-party presidential campaign that a man in the crowd shot him in the chest and he died. Kidding. Bullet passed through a steel eyeglass case and 50 sheets of paper, but yeah, it definitely pierced the skin. So he begrudgingly tells the crowd,
Sorry, friends, but I've just been shot, so I'll have to keep this short.
30 minutes later,
Because I believe the American people can decide for themselves.
Dude got shots, like, now let me give you a half-hour speech. There's no stopping him. He's non-stop, dude. No, there's no stopping old Teddy.
Not now.
another hour later,
And that, friends, is why you should vote progressive. All right, you can help me down now. I'm feeling kind of dizzy.
despite all that, he ended up splitting the vote because first past the post is a terrible system and Wilson won instead. So what does a man like...
Yeah, Wilson is a character I don't like as president or as a person, so... You know, I'll leave it at that. But there's also that kind of growing discourse around me. Not a lot of people like Wilson, at least from, again, I can't speak for all Americans in every state. I can only speak from where I'm around and stuff. But, like, most people usually talk ill of Wilson and don't like him as president. One of these days we had to look at a Wilson video, but I'm afraid I'd actually be upset if I do, so I don't know.
Teddy Roosevelt do in a time like this? He explores an uncharted river in the treacherous depths of the Amazon.
Oh my
On this
gosh.
charming trip, one guy dies, one guy gets murdered, and one guy gets left for dead. And Teddy gets an infection so bad he starts reciting another man's fever dream. Then one of the most traumatic and devastating conflicts in human history popped up, and 58-year-old Teddy spotted an opportunity to relive his glory days.
Oh
He
my
wrote to the
gosh.
government saying,
Ooh, put me in, Chief. I can take him.
and he got permission from Congress, but Wilson was a total buzzkill and said no. Then Teddy developed some breathing trouble, his doctor made him feel better, and then death came for him in his sleep so he could avoid getting roundhoused in the face. Okay, free stuff. You want more Teddy? Boom, conservationism. Like
What an awesome man. What an awesome life. Again, I know this was more on the jokey side, and, you know, aside from the more straight-faced, historical videos we looked, but that was fun. I enjoyed that quite immensely, actually. So, rest in peace, Teddy. Even death feared facing you awake and conscious. Oh boy, that rocked.